Very good morning, students. In the previous session, we have seen the determination of alkalinity of water by using hydrochloric acid. The main aim of determination of alkalinity of water sample is estimation of individual alkalinity of water sample. We know which ions are causes alkalinity to the water sample. Those ions are OH minus ions, that means hydroxyl ions, CO3 minus 2, that means carbonate ions, HCO3 minus, that is bicarbonate ions. These three ions are causes alkalinity to the water sample. If the water sample is containing OH minus and carbonate, that alkalinity is known as a caustic alkalinity. If the water sample is containing carbonate and bicarbonate, that is called permanent alkalinity. So, in the yesterday we have seen the example of determination of caustic alkalinity, that is OH minus and carbonate alkalinity. So, in that experiment we are using two indicators, one is phenolphthalein indicator and the methyl orange indicator. Phenolphthalein is indicating complete neutralization of OH minus and half neutralization of carbonate, but whereas methyl orange is indicating complete neutralization of all three ions, that is OH minus, carbonate and bicarbonate. Yes. So, now let us see the next topic, that is specification of potable water. What are the specifications of potable water? Here potable water is nothing but the water which is used for the drinking purpose. The water which is used for the drinking purpose is called the potable water here. So, how the water should be? How the water should be for the drinking purpose? What are the specifications of the drinking water? We know some specifications of the drinking water. The water should be colorless, odorless and tasteless. We know that if the water is having any color, that means it is having impurities. Yes, we can't drink such type of water. And even the water should be tasteless, because if the water is having any taste, we can't drink that water. And it must be odorless, that means it should not have any smell. So, these are the basic specifications of the drinking water. So, what is the first point? Odorless, colorless and the tasteless. And what is the other specification? You know that specification also, the pH level. We know the pH scale of the solutions. If the pH is less than 7, acid; if pH is more than 7, base; but if pH is equals to 7, that is a neutral solution. So, we can't have acidic and the basic solutions. We can have only the neutral solution. That means our drinking water pH should be neutral, that means the pH value should be 7. So, pH value, it is 7 to 8, 7 to 8 is acceptable, less than 7 and more than 8 is not acceptable here. And let us see the other specifications, that is chloride, fluoride and some suspended impurities and hardness. Yes. So, here the water should be having the turbidity less than 10 ppm. Turbidity must be less than 10 ppm. And whereas suspended impurities, so maybe the water is having some suspended impurities. Suspended impurities and turbidity both are similar here, but turbidity is nothing but the fine mud particles. Suspended impurities are nothing but the impurities which are not dissolved state. Those impurities are maybe the sand particles or the soil particles or the mud particles. That is the suspended impurities. So, we can say the turbidity or suspended impurities less than 10 ppm and the fluoride content. That means the fluorine should be less than 1.5 ppm in the drinking water. Fluoride content must be less than 1.5 ppm. If it is exceeding 1.5 ppm, the people will suffer from the fluorosis disease. Here fluorosis disease is similar to polio disease. So, the fluoride content should not exceed 1.5 ppm. And the chloride content is less than 35 ppm. And the next one, it must be free from the disease causing microorganisms. That means it should not contain any disease causing microorganisms, and it must be free from the disease causing microorganisms and free from the suspended impurities and free from the harmful impurities like sulfur. Yes. So, these are the specifications of potable water. So, now let us see the next topic. It is important for 2 marks question. And now let us see the next topic, that is the break point of chlorination. Before going to see the break point of chlorination, let us see what is mean by the chlorination. Why we are using the chlorination process for the drinking purpose. So, you can observe in the drinking water some bleaching powder smell. Yes, in the municipal treatment, what the people are doing, they are adding some amount of bleaching powder or the chlorine gas. So, when they are adding the chlorine gas or the bleaching powder, that bleaching powder is killing the bacteria in the water sample. Yes, we know that the water is having some disease causing microorganisms, and to kill that bacteria, what we are doing, we are adding the chlorine or the bleaching powder. Even bleaching powder also having the chlorine. That chlorine is killing the bacteria in the water sample. Yes, that is called the chlorination. So, now let us see what is the break point of chlorination. It is very, very important for external examination. But here break point of chlorination is nothing but the point where the bacteria is killing. Break point, that means at one of the point the entire bacteria is breaking, that is called the break point. So, first let us see the definition of chlorination. Chlorination is nothing but addition of sufficient amount of chlorine to kill the bacteria in the water sample. Chlorination means addition of sufficient amount of chlorine to kill the bacteria in the water sample, that is chlorination. So, break point of chlorination is nothing but by adding sufficient amount of chlorine, the disease causing microorganisms are killing at one of the particular point. That point is called the break point of chlorination. So, simply we can define the break point of chlorination as the point where the entire bacteria is killing by adding sufficient amount of chlorine is called the break point of chlorination. But here we can't add all the chlorine at a time to kill the entire bacteria in the water sample. So, let us assume this is a container. In this container we are taking around 20 liters of water sample. Just let us assume we are taking 20 liters of water sample. Now, this water sample is having some disease causing microorganisms. So, how we are killing the disease causing microorganisms? By adding the chlorine or the bleaching powder. But here we need to know how much amount of chlorine is required in the 20 liters of water sample. Yes. So, we are having some equipments to know, to measure how much amount of chlorine is required for 1 liter of water sample. So, based on that we can calculate for 20 liters of water sample. Yes. So, let us assume it requires around 10 grams of chlorine. Just let us assume it requires 10 grams of chlorine. Yes. So, but we can't add the entire 10 grams of chlorine at a time to kill the entire bacteria in the water sample. So, what we have to do here? We need to add the chlorine in the small portions. So, when we add chlorine in the small portions, it is killing the disease causing microorganisms. Along with that, it is killing the remaining impurities in the water sample. So, by adding the gradual portions of chlorine, it is killing the disease causing microorganisms and also some other impurities in the water sample. So, let us see what impurities are removing by chlorination process. So, it is removing the reducing agents. So, whatever the reducing agents are present in the water sample, those are removing, and along with that some ammonia and some organic impurities. And last, disease causing microorganisms, simply we can call bacteria. Yes, so it is killing the reducing agents, ammonia, organic impurities and the bacteria. Yes, so initial stage, that means if we add in the first portions, if we add the small portions initially, in the first stage it is killing the reducing agents, and in the second stage when we add second portion, when we add the chlorine in the second portion, that means at the second stage it is reacting, that means chlorine is reacting with the ammonia and the organic impurities. Initially it is not killing ammonia and the organic impurities. So, when we add chlorine in the second stage, chlorine is reacting with the ammonia and also chlorine is reacting with the organic impurities. So, when chlorine is reacting with the ammonia, initially it is not killing, instead of killing it is forming chloramine and also chloroorganic compounds. Yes, instead of killing it is forming the chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. That means the chlorine, the additional chlorine is combined with ammonia and the organic impurities in the second stage. When we are adding at the third stage, it is killing the chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. In addition to that, it is also killing the entire bacteria in the water sample. That means at the third stage, the entire bacteria in the water sample is killing. So, the third point, that means stage 3 is called the break point of chlorination. Yes, so that is break point of chlorination. So, now I will explain by using this. I said you now the 20 liters of water sample is required 10 grams of chlorine. So, initially we are adding around 2 to 5 grams of chlorine. When we add 2 to 5 grams of chlorine, what happens here? The 2 to 5 grams of chlorine is killing the reducing agents. So, initially it is reacting and immediately it is killing the reducing agents, that is in the stage 1. Whereas in the second stage, when we are adding around 5 to 8 grams of chlorine, what happens here? The chlorine, that means additional chlorine, is reacting with ammonia and organic impurities in the water sample. So, when it is reacting, it is forming chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. That means the chlorine quantity is increasing in the water sample. In the initial stage, when we add chlorine, is there any chlorine in the water sample? There is no chlorine because the entire chlorine is killing the reducing agents in the water sample. So, at the stage 1, there is no chlorine. That chlorine is called the residual chlorine. Here residual chlorine is nothing but either the chlorine is in the free state or the chlorine is in the combined state. If the chlorine is in the free state or in the combined state, that is called the residual chlorine. So, see here in stage 2, what happens in the stage 2? In the stage 2, chlorine is reacting with the ammonia and the organic impurities. So, when it is reacting, what is forming here? Chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. That means it is in the combined state. In stage 2, it is in the combined state. That combined state is called the residual chlorine. That means at the second stage, the chlorine is existing in the combined state. So, at the second stage, residual chlorine is increasing. So, when we are adding in the third stage, that means in the third portion, when we add around 8 to 10 grams of chlorine, what happens at the third stage? At the third stage, chloramine, chloroorganic compounds and the entire bacteria is killing in the water sample. So, is there any free chlorine or the combined state chlorine in the stage 3? No, at the stage 3 the entire 10 grams of chlorine is killing the entire bacteria, chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. So, at stage 3 there is no residual chlorine because there is no free chlorine and there is no combined state of chlorine. So, after the break point of chlorination also we can add some amount of chlorine. Yes, to kill the remaining bacteria. There is no bacteria, but still we can add the chlorine up to 30 ppm. It should not exceed 35 ppm. So, we can add the chlorine up to 30 ppm. It is acceptable to the human being. So, after the stage 3 also we can add the chlorine in the water sample, but when we add after the stage 3, what happens? The residual chlorine will be increasing here. We know what is the residual chlorine, that is the free chlorine. At stage 4, the residual chlorine is increasing here because that is the excess amount of chlorine after the break point of chlorination. So, I said you now it should not exceed 35 ppm. So, now let us see what happens when it is exceeding 35 ppm. What happens when it is exceeding 35 ppm? It is forming some byproducts. Those byproducts are chloroform and carbon tetrachloride. So, these are the byproducts by adding excess amount of chlorine to the water sample. Those are chloroform and the carbon tetrachloride. So, we know for what purpose we are using the chloroform and the carbon tetrachloride. Chloroform is one of the compound which we are using for the anesthesia in the medical, whereas carbon tetrachloride is acting as a solvent, especially in the laboratory and also in the paints. So, carbon tetrachloride and chloroform, these are very harmful to the human being. So, if the chlorine is exceeding 35 ppm, the byproducts are forming, those are chloroform and carbon tetrachloride. So, if these products are forming in the water sample, the people will suffer from the breathing problem and also the people will suffer from the heart problem. That means maybe it leads to heart stroke. Yes, these are the drawbacks by adding excess amount of chlorine in the chlorination process. So, now let us see the graph for the break point of chlorination. The graph is very important for the break point of chlorination. So, now maybe everyone you are clear what are the products are forming and what happens in each stage. So, on x axis we are taking the chlorine which we are adding, amount of chlorine added, on y axis residual chlorine. You know what is residual chlorine? Residual chlorine is nothing but either free chlorine or the combined chlorine. So, here we are having 4 stages. This is stage 1, this is stage 2, this is stage 3 and this is stage 4. So, we know what happens in each stage. At the first stage, it is removing the reducing agents or it is killing the reducing agents. So, there is no residual chlorine at the initial stage, that means in the stage 1. So, in the stage 1, the residual chlorine is less because there is no free chlorine and the combined chlorine. But what happens in the stage 2? In the stage 2, chlorine is reacting with ammonia and the organic compounds. So, it is forming the chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. So, residual chlorine is increasing in the stage 2. So, at stage 2 the residual chlorine is increasing. What happens at stage 3? At stage 3 the entire bacteria and chloramine and chloroorganic compounds, these 3 are killing. So, at stage 3 there is no residual chlorine. And now at stage 4, the chlorine is increasing in the free state Yes, these are the 4 stages. So what happens in stage 1? Removing, reducing agents. Second stage, it is reacting with ammonia and organic compounds or organic impurities and producing chloramine and the chloroorganic compounds. In the third stage, it is killing the entire bacteria in the water sample, and in stage 4, the free chlorine, that is the residual chlorine, but it should not exceed 35 ppm. Yes. So these are this is the break point of chlorination. Thank you so much.